My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everybody, it is your host once again, Seth, with another episode of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. Today I have Zach Carlin. He is a former MMA fighter, more of a lover than a fighter, but at least now he's realized that he's doesn't like punching people in the head. He's done retail. He's from the Great White North, now living in Arkansas. He is the co-founder of Summit Chasers Network, which is a network to help people get better at business and life and everything in general, pretty much. We'll get into more what that means. But I don't know where where did we meet? Was it on Podchaser?
No, I think it was just a good old LinkedIn.
Oh, it was LinkedIn. Yeah. We was connected and we're like, oh, this guy's interesting. So I was on his show recently, Some Chasers Network podcast, and now he's on my show. So it's a lot of fun. So Zach, how's it going, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great, my friend. Thank you for having me. And we had a very great conversation. And yours, I'm going to make sure that yours comes out kind of right around, maybe within a week.
Oh, very cool. This is coming out. Yeah. This is kind of, as of this recording, it's mid-March. This is going to come out at the beginning of April, so that's good. So we're it's coming out pretty quickly, which is good. Coming out weekly. So Zach, who the hell are you and why do we care? How about that for
that's great. I'm loving this, by the way, so far. I'm loving it, by the way.
Crap? I'm saying.
Well, to answer the question, why should you care? That's up to you whether you should or not. I don't know.
It's kind of a rhetorical question.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a small town kid, Canadian, like you so eloquently announced.
The Great White North,
Great White North on a farm in a farm town.
Wow.
Not much special there.
A lot of land,
900,
not a lot of
but
people.
900. Yeah, the 900 people were in my town.
Did you have a stoplight?
We had the only. It was the most annoying town in the province of Alberta because it was the only one that had a stoplight on the highway. So there's like a main highway that goes north-south.
That's never
Alberta.
smart. And there's roads in the U.S. that are old, and they could like close access. And all of a sudden it's like, stoplight, and you're like, shoot!
Yeah. We're the only stoplight on the highway. But it's great because, little fun fact about Claresholm, which is the town I'm from, we had the busiest, because of that stoplight, we had the second busiest 7-Eleven in Canada.
Okay, so
there was one in Toronto.
Like, there's a 7-Eleven, let's go over there.
It had really good chicken. So that's kind of what we were known for.
The 7-Eleven chicken.
Yeah, cows and 7-Eleven chicken. What more could you ask for, Seth? But anyways, I grew up there, and I, typical, teenager rebellious stage. I took mine a little bit too far, and ended up dabbling in drugs and alcohol and that kind of stuff. And I ended up.
Well, what else do you do in the middle of nowhere, Canada?
Well, because it was kind of like you either played hockey or you did drugs, right? And we were there was a highway that went kind of around our town. It was on the other side, so we were right on the mountains. We were right on the Rocky Mountains, and then right on the other side of them.
Yeah. Good view.
Right on the other side of them, there was a highway called the Crow's Nest Pass, and it was ran by a sector or district, a division, I guess, of the Hells Angels, and that was like meth. Meth was a big thing. Yeah, meth was a big thing there because of all the oil fields and stuff that were there. So we had a lot of money.
You need to stay up late. And all
like
that
a lot
stuff.
of the roughnecks, because that you could be a 19-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid right out of high school, go be a roughneck. It's tough work, but you could make $20 an hour, and in 2006, 5, 6, 7, 8,
now that's
a lot of money.
$40 an hour now. So
exactly. So there's a lot of, that's how they stayed awake, and that was just what they spent their money on, because they're up in those camps. They don't have to pay for lodging. They don't have to pay for food. So they end up stacking a lot of cash, and what else are you going to do? There's nothing else to do in your spare time.
Work. I mean, you're doing 12, 14-hour days of work. You got to stay up.
So it was big around there. It was big around there. So I filmed with the wrong crowd, sort of thing, and ended up not having anywhere to live for a short period of time. Right. And that was kind of my kick in the ass, I guess. And before that, I'd been doing mixed martial arts, but I had to travel to the city to do it, and it was kind of very taboo at the time. That was 2005, 2006.
Yeah, the whole thing was like, what is that?
It was cockfighting. It was human cockfighting at the time.
Cockfighting for humans, which was even more peculiar. I remember 2006. It was UFC was just coming out, and people were like, "That's brutal." Yeah. Now we're all desensitized. Now we don't give a crap.
Yeah. Now it's still one of the fastest growing sports. But that was in like Chuck Liddell, and he was on top and that kind of thing. But yeah, it was very, very taboo, especially in a small town where I was from. Right, it was either you played hockey or baseball or curling, whatever. Again,
curling. Yeah, okay, that's one sport I don't understand. We're going to take a quick break.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the boys' club of advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
Hear from our sponsors and get right back to the show.
You don't need to.
It's almost as bad as cricket.
It's like really boring darts. Yeah, cricket's confusing. But yes, and then so I was still fighting, and then that's what kind of got me out of it.
Well,
I had a boxing coach.
So getting punched in the head enough got you out of the drugs.
Exactly. It was the discipline that came with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it was the discipline that came with it, right?
Not the punches in the head, no.
Exactly. And so the boxing coach, he said there's two things that he said. I mean, there's only one that I really conceptualized and saw as something, I took that for the rest of my life, and I've been teaching it as I've been coaching for the last 15 years. And he said, you need to take responsibility. Same thing our parents say, take responsibility. It's like, okay.
Yeah, but you don't listen to our parents. We don't never listen to our parents. No.
Whatever, dude. Exactly. And then he said it in a way whereas, like, you need to take responsibility for your actions. Because if you get into that spot, you blame everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
We've all been in that spot, right? Where things don't go right. It's everybody else's fault but yours. So he's like, no, you don't just take responsibility for the obvious shit. Take responsibility for, you have to intentionally take responsibility for even the littlest things. Because that way you're just admitting that you have no control over anything in your life, and you're always going to be at the mercy of some other force, right? So then that always, it didn't necessarily stick with me. The words didn't stick with me, but that, it was almost like a feeling.
Yeah,
right? Like I need to.
You hit the chord that needed to be hit.
Exactly. So, and I took that with me. I could kind of, when I look back and times when you'd fallen at bad times, or I'd fail at a business or whatever it is, right? I'd fail at something, and I could always kind of attribute it to I wasn't intentionally taking responsibility for things, so therefore I wasn't growing in the right direction, and I wasn't growing fast enough, or improving or adjusting fast enough. Yeah. So that always kind of, again, subconsciously kind of stuck with me. And then he also said the best thing, because he said, you need to get a job, man. And I was like, I barely had clothes to wear. I was sleeping in this slide thing. And he's like, go get a job. I'm like, no one's going to hire me. He's like, dude, just focus on the next thing you got to do. Let's go buy a shirt.
Yeah, go buy a shirt.
Just go buy a shirt, man. Don't look at the tip of the mountain. Don't look at the summit right now.
Yeah, no pun intended. Exactly.
No pun intended, right? But just look at what's the next thing you got to do. Let's go buy a shirt. So we went to this bargain store that was in town, and I bought. Remember those when those smiley faces were really popular?
Yeah, Life's Good.
I remember the brand. Yeah, so I got like this red shirt, yellow melty smiley face thing, and I went and got breakfast, and then a few weeks later I got a job at a swimming pool. But so it worked. But it
was the start to getting yourself out of the bad.
It was the start, and it started allowing me to afford to be able to get to the gym more often, because again I had to travel an hour to get there, and then I started. I was 17, 18, and then by the time I turned 19, halfway through 19, I was starting to get a lot of traction. Like I was obsessed again. I was obsessed with this again. And
good.
Again,
in Canada, with that and math.
Well, yeah. Everyone has their thing, but it's much better.
Yeah, but it's still a drug. I mean, dopamine's a drug. I mean,
it is.
Dopamine, especially for kids, dopamine is a big thing. And if you can get you that high, the endorphin, it's more endorphins, but the endorphins, after you work out really hard, that makes you want to crave more. And then, but it's better crave than the other crave.
And it was one of those sports where there's so much to learn. I respect boxing a lot. It's a beautiful sport when you really understand the intricacies.
It's brutal,
or just pay attention to it. Oh, for sure. But like there's so many techniques. There's an art to it, right?
Yeah.
But it's with martial arts. It's like, okay, I had to learn how to box. I had to learn how to wrestle. I had to learn how to do jujitsu. I had to learn the defensive aspect of all these things. I learned, Muay Thai and blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. So there's so much to learn. There's why
it's called mixed martial arts, because it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and
it's everything. It's everything, and you had to learn how everything could work together with your strengths. You had to learn how to leverage your strengths, mitigate your weaknesses, and improve them, obviously. But there's so much to learn, so those dopamine hits just happen more frequent. Because I could go take 4 classes in a day, or work out 4 sessions in a day, and one would be jiu-jitsu, and I'd learn something new there. So I got a dopamine hit. I'd box, we'd do sparring, had a good sparring session, got a dopamine hit there.
Yeah.
I'd learn like a new technique in Muay Thai, or trips and that kind of thing, or the plumb and that kind of. So it was fun like that. So I got really addicted to that. But anyways, I got pretty good in Canada, in southern Alberta, Canada. I got pretty good, and I was like, hey, I got a sister that lives in Vegas. Let's just go to Vegas, and that was like the mecca.
That's like the Hollywood for actors. Vegas is the mecca, and still kind of the mecca for UFC and stuff.
I would say it is. It is, as far as like that's where the fights are. That's where the money is. That's where the crowds are. And
that's where the shine and glitz and glamour is.
Yeah, but at that time, that's where all the gyms were.
Oh, really?
That's where the best gyms were. So there's 2 or 3 within our continent. Because there's some big, like Chuto Box in Brazil was huge. I wasn't about to go to Brazil. But we had the TriStar Gym in Canada, in Montreal, Canada, where George St. Pierre trained.
Which is it was just farther than Vegas for you, so
It would have been farther and more expensive, actually.
And you wouldn't have gone along with the Quebecois that much, so,
No, probably not.
You get more fights.
No. You're from Alberta, and then they would have just kicked my ass. And then, but Vegas had Extreme Couture, so if anybody knows who Randy Couture was, he was huge in the sport at the time. And so I had a sister that lived in Vegas. I was like, Vegas is cool, so why not a recovering addict move to Vegas? That sounds like a good idea. So I moved to Vegas, and again, I thought I was good in southern Alberta, and I moved there.
To you.
All right, well, there's guys like again, if I'm saying names and anybody listening doesn't know, I'm sorry, look them up, but like Forrest Griffin, Vitor Belfort, Randy Couture himself, Brock Lesnar when he was in the UFC, he was training out of there. Thiago Alves, Michael Chandler.
So it was it was good influences there to see, like, these are
crazy.
The top of the top.
It was the top
right there. Like literally, like you walk around, like you go like in Philly, you walk around and there's Jason Kelsey singing in Coach or in First Class, but sitting in the not in the lounge, but out with the common people. He's just there. It's like they're just over there lifting weights. It's like what the.
Yeah, and with that top talent, you bring the top coaches. So you got to learn. You got to learn so much. And it was just more readily available, obviously. So I got much more. So I got my ass kicked. Like that was really like ego check after ego check after ego check, and that was really where I learned. Like I need to never, like, my glass is never 3/4 full. Like I got to always keep my glass empty.
Keep working
to a certain point, right? Especially when I need to learn, I need to empty my glass immediately.
So how long were you in, fighting for?
So I fought for about 3-ish, 2.5, 3 years. I had a
and
contract.
Then you were smart enough to say, my brain's getting scrambled, time to leave.
Well, I got injured. I didn't get hit that much. I was pretty good because I had the karate. I had a karate background, so I didn't get hit too much. But I did get taken down a lot, and I got kicked a lot. I got kicked just because the range.
We were talking on the last podcast how that hurts the most, is getting kicked.
Yeah, the range I kept, I was in kicking range most of the time, so I got kicked, and that hurts more than getting hit in the head. We talked about that. Watch that podcast if you want to know what actually hurts and what doesn't when you're fighting. But but I got injured. I dislocated my hip. Wrestling practice, and then I ended up getting kicked out of the country because the promotion I was fighting for was kind of helping me stay in the country, and then if I'm not fighting, they don't care. Yeah. And that promotion has not been around for probably 15 years now, 12 years now.
So what did you do? What did you end up doing? You went back to Canada?
Moved back to Canada, and then I got into CrossFit and just to try and stay in shape. And then I learned, hey, you can compete in this and make up more money than I was making before. And so I worked out for a couple months, and I did a local competition. I made $4,000. Huh. I would make in a fight. I would make $1,500 a show, and if I wanted, make an extra $1,000. So $2,500 for a 6 week, 4 to 6 week.
And getting your ass kicked,
period,
or kicking someone else's ass. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I mean, even if you win, you're getting your ass kicked. Unless you knock them out in the first, or you finish them in the first 6 seconds, you're still getting your ass kicked a little bit.
Yeah.
But so, and I thought, oh, cool. I don't have to get hit in the head, because at that point, fighting did what it needed to do for me. It got me out of
and
that
not
situation.
Senseless. Not some sense into you.
Exactly, and it taught me the discipline. I got out of it what I needed out of it.
Yeah.
And then and I just CrossFit, and then I turned out I was pretty good at coaching at the time, because I had, in order to make money really while I was fighting, I was also doing I was also training the strength and conditioning. I was coaching guys. I was really starting to learn how to coach. So then I transitioned to CrossFit, started coaching a little bit just to kind of pay for my membership. And then I got approached by the gym owner. He's like, hey man, we're looking to kind of expand a little bit and grow. We'd love to have somebody like you on the team. So I actually bought into that gym.
Oh, wow.
So to become a part owner. And my naivety was very apparent when we had our first kind of meeting, and we looked at like the P&L statements and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I was thinking, we got like 200 members, and CrossFit's expensive, so they're paying $170, $200 a month. I'm like, fuck, we're rolling in it. This is easy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my 20% and just gonna be
rock
great.
And roll. Yeah.
It was like single digits, man. Like it was brutal. I was like, where's all the money go? Like what happens? I was like, well, we have ads, we have the lease, we have taxes, we have all these softwares and stuff that we have there's a lot going on. So I was like, okay, well, how do we make the number go up? And I got so obsessed with making that number go up. Mm-hmm. And then
chasing the summit.
Exactly. So I got so obsessed with that. So when I was training, so at this point now I'm competing. Like they convinced me to you should compete in this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's do it. So I'm training 2 or 3 times a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm not training, I'm just like, my coach is like, you just don't do anything. Like just you're either getting a massage, eating, or some sort of recovery. And
sleep.
I was like,
how about it's called sleep?
All right, or sleeping. Yeah. So during that time when I was immobilizing myself, I was trying to learn. I was learning how to make that P&L statement go up, and I got again obsessed with that as well. And that's
different kind of dopamine hit. Yeah.
I learned. Yeah, exactly. You learn marketing. You learn fulfillment. You learn strategic partnerships. How to sell. Sales in fitness is so hard.
Very much.
It's great. It's not hard. It's just a really good foundation. Because you're selling the possibility that they will achieve a goal if they do a ton of work, and
they have to get into
yeah. So it's a tough sell. But I mean, if that's your foundation, I still to this day, if you want to be really good at sales, that's a great foundation to be really good at sales. But so I had to learn all these things, and I started implementing them and getting more of our, developing more of like a fulfillment process, more of a creating programs. How do I, bundle things together? And then I started getting sponsorships from supplement companies, and let's figure how can I do it, figure out a strategic partnership with them. So I'm learning how to negotiate, and
that's awesome.
All this kind of
stuff.
So
it all leads to Summit Chasers,
So that was kind of the initial kind of spark that got me more obsessed with business than anything else. And then that was 11, 12, that was 11. What year is it? 24? It was 11. That was 11 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, and then I sold off my equity there, and my shares there, and moved on and bought into another one, right?
Oh, wow.
And did the same thing there.
Yeah.
And then I flipped that one, and we ended up doing, for a CrossFit gym to do, about $50,000 a month in profit, it's really good.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm starting to get onto something here. So then I bought 2 more, and then sold those off. And I bought another one, sold that off. So I did that with 6 gyms, and then I partnered with a company who sold fitness equipment.
The next horizon, yeah.
So that was the next thing. I was like, okay, that's cool, because we wanted to open up a performance center that was, we could show off our equipment and kind of be the, the fun face of it, sort of thing. And so we did that, and then so we scaled that quite a bit in a short period of time. I think they were doing about 1.8 million, and then we started doing, I think by the time I left, I made my exit, we were doing a little over 20. So it was. Well, we had a mothership business that was also a logistics transportation company. So we immediately
you can move your stuff around to.
We immediately had a huge market opportunity. Like we could go way wider, and I also had at the time. Now that was 4. What was that, 17? That was about 4 years later, and I was on billboards in Canada for Sport Check. If anybody knows, it's kind of like the Dick's Sporting Goods of Canada, Sport Check. And so I had some, people knew me, I was.
You're the billboard guy, yeah.
I competed in France, Brazil, Dubai, all over Canada,
even all over the world, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of clout, as the kids say these days. So that helped a little bit, right? I don't know if it helped much, but I mean, there was a lot of things. If we didn't grow that much, it would have been weird, right? It would have been weird. We had so much set up in order to do so. But then I made an exit there. Wasn't a pretty one either, but I made an exit there.
You made an exit, yeah. An exit's an exit, Yeah,
and we ended up moving back to Vegas. So my daughter was born. Yeah. Moved back to Vegas because that's where my ex-wife, she's from Vegas, and her family was there. So we moved back. It takes a village, and
it definitely does.
Yeah, and then when we decided to, I was getting my green card and all this kind of stuff, and we decided because she was a nutritionist, dietitian. And I was like, let's just start our own thing. So we started our own thing, and that was in end of 2019. Wow. And we dumped a lot of money into building these. We wanted to do brick and mortar fitness facilities with an online presence. Foreshadow. COVID hit. And I learned a very expensive lesson, and we lost everything. Absolutely everything. And at the time our son was born, so we had a newborn while we were going through all of this.
Oh no.
And we everything was gone. And I to the point I had to get a job doing customer service for Netflix during COVID in our garage in Vegas in the summertime.
Oh, awful.
So I'm sitting there in my underwear helping old ladies find their remote on and turn their Netflix on.
You hit rock bottom again. Yeah, you went up, down, up, down, and you fell down the summit.
That was the worst. That was much worse than anything else, just because I had people that relied on me so heavily.
Yeah, and you also knew where you've been, and it's not like you're starting at the beginning where you haven't been anywhere yet. Yeah, now you've been places, and you're like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I had a 2-year-old and a newborn, and a wife at the time.
How did you get out of that?
Well, I mean, it helped having 2 kids during COVID because we got some checks. But it was so I felt dirty taking it almost because I knew I had these skills, I had these tools. A lot of
skills you couldn't do because COVID kind of kept
I couldn't do it. But also I didn't want to take that as an excuse. I had to take responsibility for it. I was blaming COVID for not achieving
your coach
something.
popped in your ear again saying
exactly. Yeah. So I knew I needed to figure out a way. A lot of businesses were started during COVID. Yeah, especially online e-commerce, that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to see if I can find somebody or find something that I can kind of partner with, and I'm gonna go for it. And so I found my former partner, and he used to do keynote speaking, and so he had a fairly good presence and business mind and that kind of stuff. So we ended up partnering. He had a gym in downtown Vegas, and that's kind of where it started. So we started, or he had a gym that he started. Or he bought into, He brought me on because he wanted to expand his online presence, and I had built out an online fitness
very cool
team. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm on board.
And what do you have to lose? You're in your underwear in your garage in Vegas.
Exactly. I had nothing. I had nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing. So we went all in on that, and we ended up. And again, it was a very small downtown Las Vegas. It was about a 1,200 square foot, 1,400 square foot gym, including the bathrooms. So it was very small, and we ended up getting that to, like, we were doing $150,000 a month in a really small gym.
Wow.
Really small space.
There's a demand.
And then, so we started kind of more, we hired good people. That's where I really kind of implemented my hiring process that I kind of created the framework and improved it.
Yeah.
That's what we teach with our clients now, or something we implement with our clients now. And then we started moving more to the online space, and we got a client from California, and he was the owner of a bail bonds company. And I was like, cool, because I was also doing some life coaching, and we're doing some leadership coaching in there as well. Everything's encompassing, right? Health and work integration sort of thing. And then they were like, a lot of the stuff, because we did a lot of accountabilities, like a lot of this stuff would be great for our sales leaders. And we were like, yeah, probably. Yeah, for sure. Like, we just act like, yeah, sure.
Sure, why not? Let's try. Why not? Yeah.
No, I totally agree. We've done this 100 times before. And so they hired us to work with their sales leaders on sales leadership and accountability. And they ended up absolutely crushing it. They ended up increasing their revenue by about 11% when they were stagnant for the 3 years prior. And we kind of looked at each other and, like, first of all, people will pay way more for this. Getting a six-pack, the companies will. And this is just so much more growth opportunity here. So we're kind of like, all right, let's just go all in on it. So we shut down the fitness facility and went all in on executive sales leadership, mentoring and coaching, and executive leadership coaching.
And that's where Summit came from, right?
No, that was my prior agency.
Oh, wow! We're
not even there yet. So, and we started working with, like, Hewlett Packard when they acquired Zerto. Like, they hired us, and Salesforce, Car Gurus, Farmers Insurance.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Exactly. Farm Credit of Illinois. Like, it's just very broad individuals that we worked with. But one thing that I was starting to notice, like, we were more heavily on, like, the sales accountability and sales leadership and that kind of thing. But what I started to notice was that these companies are trying to solve for the symptom. They think our revenue's down, we haven't grown in this amount of time, we're inconsistent. It's just our sales team. We need better sales.
It's never
process.
just your sale. It's never
it.
Yeah.
It's never it. It's a symptom. So I liken it to, if somebody came to me like, I have a bad knee, it's like, okay, that's a symptom of something else that's going on, what caused it. And a lot of times, like, their hip would be out of place, or something's wrong with their foot, so their gait's different when they walk. It puts more pressure on their knee. So I'm seeing these companies, I'm like, we're not even solving the actual problem. Right? So, and again, disagreements on that, all that kind of thing, and I wanted to do something to actually solve the problem. So then I moved on, and we started Summit Chasers, where we work with small to medium-sized businesses to build a business foundation that they can scale on. Because if you have
reach the sales,
if your sales are poor, a lot of times did you hire the right people? Did you have the SOPs documented so things are consistent? Are your leaders consistently working with your teams, or is that how you teach them? Are you, as the business owner yourself, are you continuing to grow? Because a business can't grow past the founder itself. Right? You need to learn how to multiply yourself and bring on good people.
That's tough. That's the toughest part, is trying to multiply yourself, get the SOPs down, get the structure and the foundation together. Otherwise, you're floundering at the top.
Exactly.
You're not even at the top. You're floundering on the way to the top. You're floundering.
Yeah. Well, you're going to do this.
You keep falling down, sliding
and
down.
Eventually, the peak gets lower, and you start doing that. So then that's where Summit Chaser started. I wanted to solve the actual problem, and I wanted to work with companies that were kind of like me a little bit, where they don't have the MBAs, they don't have the mom and dad that had a business growing up, but they had a problem that they want to solve. They had a life that they wanted to live, and they went for it. Right, using the skills that they currently have, but they need the foundations to build it off, like a rocket ship. Stuff for a rocket ship these days to just shoot out of the ocean, sort of thing. Like, they need a solid platform. So that's where Summit Chasers is.
There you go. So, what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur? Because you've done it a bunch of times. You've had the ups, you've had the downs. I mean, your underwear, Vegas, summer, Netflix.
Yeah. The best thing about being an entrepreneur, I mean, a lot of people will say it's, you have control of your own destiny, and you can work your own hours. That's true.
For the most part, but you don't always have. But that's not a misnomer, because you don't always have control.
Exactly, you don't.
Like COVID, you lost control. You had no control over COVID.
Yeah, I think the best thing about being an entrepreneur is you can solve the problem that you're most passionate about, that you can solve the problem that you see as most important. It's easier to work those. Yeah, some people will be like, oh, I quit a 40-hour job a week so I could start my business and work 100 hours a week. But when you're solving a problem, this is to your point too. Those who are listening, you'll see this in his podcast too. Like you're more willing to do that, or you're very willing to do that.
Thing, you own it. It buck stops with you. Absolutely,
it's yours. So I'm working with who I want to work with. I'm solving the problems I feel most passionate about, and it's much easier to do that for 100 hours a week than it is to do something I'm not passionate about, making somebody else a bunch of money and their life for 40 hours a week.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's probably the best thing.
Now, on the flip side, what keeps you up at night besides your kids and your dog?
Oh, and the dogs, yeah. Probably it's one of those things. Like, I know what we do works, so how can I reach more people?
Yeah,
I know
make more of an impact.
How can I make more of an impact? And how can I think that's the biggest thing. I just want to make more, because the people that we worked with, they've gotten amazing results, and the people that we talk to, they're like, frick, I wish I had this however long ago. Yeah. But it's like, and it's cool to hear, like, it's nice, but then it's like, okay, well, how can I impact more? How can I impact more people? Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily how can I improve my marketing or how can I do this, but it's how can I package this in a way that I can help more people at once, right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time? Now, that could be as woo-woo as you want to go. So
most important thing to carry with me all the time. So I'm a big kind of proponent. Again, I have kids. I'm really protective.
Yeah.
Right. So is probably my awareness.
Yeah.
Probably. Right. I'm trying to keep it as like neutral as possible. Right. Is especially as a man. Right. We do have an innate responsibility to be the protectors. Right. So it's that awareness part of it, and just being prepared. Right, for anything. And we're about to go travel the world, and
oh boy,
what we bring with me is I want to bring rules with me that keep us safe.
Exactly. Traveling the world, it's not the same community every time, you know?
Yeah. As we're driving around in a trailer, we're going to be a little bit more exposed. So I need to bring with me certain rules and principles that keep us safe. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So where can people find you online, Zach?
Oh, they can find me LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. Zach Carlin on LinkedIn. We are rebuilding our website and our brand and all that kind of stuff right now. So that'll come out in about 4 weeks. So, but for right now, if you want to learn a little bit more, SENgetstarted.com, or Facebook, Instagram, Summit Chasers Network, and all those kind of things.
Yeah, we'll put the links in the show notes. So
sounds good. Yeah,
awesome. But it was just so much fun. I'm so glad to get you on. I'm so glad to be on your podcast. So we'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.